Welcome in, everyone. First week of the playoffs, and that means it is a reloaded field for this week's WATD Fantasy Draft. Quinn, Johnny, Brendan with you here this week. Playoff week one, and I couldn't be more excited. I mean, we're here, we're ready to go. We know who's in the field of 16 across 8 divisions, and we got an awful lot of South Shore representation, as we discussed on Sunday night, and a lot of teams that could go very far. This week, we've got rolling from last week's results. It looks like I'm going to take home the win. Johnny in second and Brendan in third, so it'll be the reverse of that. Brendan will be picking first this week, Johnny in the 2 spot, and I will be rounding out the week 1 draft. But listen, you don't get to this point, you don't get this many teams in the playoffs without a lot of stars on the South Shore, so things are wide open again. We are not selecting from teams that are not in the playoffs but are playing in non-playoff action. It's going to be exclusively playoff teams, playoff players. So yeah. Go ahead and like and subscribe while you're here. We've got plenty more content coming out all throughout the playoffs. Look out for our divisions 1 through 8 previews this week as we look at the South Shore and beyond in each division. Yeah, keep tuned for more content, and then go ahead over to Twitter at SE on WATD and subscribe. We'll have updates to follow there. All right, Brendan, why don't you kick us off here? The Week 9 Fantasy Draft, let it begin.
I'm going to start off with one of the bigger matchups from the upcoming week. It's going to start in Division 1 between BCI and Taunton, and I'm going to go with a quarterback. I'm going to go with Dylan Keenan out of Taunton because I think they're going to have to pass the ball a lot to keep up in this game. I think BCI is going to try and jump out to an early lead, and Taunton's going to have to play a passing style of game to keep up in this one. And I know that running game is kind of their big thing, so we'll have to see how it works.
I love this pick. You faked me out. It's not where I thought you were going with it. Had the pleasure of seeing Dylan Keenan in person. I think this kid's supremely talented. They're going to lose a lot to graduation this year in the wide receiver room. Some of his weapons are going to be gone, but him only being a sophomore, he looks far more poised than your average sophomore. I think that they're in good hands going forward with him. And I think you're spot on. He's going to have to be big in this game if they want to beat BC High. I think this one's going to be one of the really good matchups on the weekend. But I don't have a good sense of where this one is going to go. Taunton has played down to some teams. Taunton has played way up to some teams. They got some good wins, some bad losses, and BC High has felt like they've been a little bit more consistent in where you'd expect them to be. They've lost to the teams they're supposed to lose to. They beat the teams they're supposed to beat. But I think Keenan's a great pick, Brendan. All right, Johnny, give it to me.
I had a pretty good plan coming in, and then it might be the lights are too bright in the playoffs, but I'm just completely questioning everything right now. I don't know why, but I'm going to start with a running back. I'm going to go they're the underdog here, but they've had a really good season. I'm going to go to Weymouth. I'm going to go to Anthony Smith out of Weymouth. They're a really interesting team. I mean, 6-2 this year. I think they've really picked it up. I think they've taken a big step as a program this year. And obviously you're playing a tough 5 seed in Lincoln Sudbury at 7-1, but I think Weymouth actually has a sniff in this game, being the underdog, but I think Anthony Smith will help them to that.
I do think they have a sniff in that game. I think that they're Lincoln Sudbury. I mean, just looking over some of their schedule, they don't really impress. They don't impress me all that much. They're a run-heavy team. They had their best results are tight losses to Methuen and Needham, but it took overtime to beat Brockton. They kind of barely snuck by New Bedford. I think this is a game that Weymouth can absolutely hang in. And I think I put Lincoln Sudbury on upset alert. And if Weymouth can kind of control the clock with the ground game, I like their chances. So Anthony Smith, I like it, Johnny. I'm going to go to where I thought Brendan was going to go. And I'm going to take a quarterback on the opposite side. So we're in for a little week 1 quarterback duel. Give me Carter Carroll out of BC High. I think I think he's really talented. He's throwing for over 1,000 yards this year. I think something like 1,500 yards. I think that Taunton has shown at times some stinginess in the ground game. So they may be relying on Carter Carroll in this game to get them moving downfield. And either way, he seems to just always get his numbers. So give me Carter Carroll off the board. Round 2, Brendan.
I'm surprised neither of these two guys have gone up the board over the course of the whole season here. Maybe it's just because of the course of where Milton's season has gone. They started off wicked hot, and then they've kind of come back to earth. Maybe that's why we've kind of shied away from picking the Wildcats lately. But I'm going to go with Luke Hartford this week. I think Milton is going to have to run the ball, and I think they're going to try and make a statement, jump out to a big lead in this one, and they're going to rely on their ground game to get the victory. And then the challenges will come later on in the postseason for them.
Yeah, I think honestly, I mean, it's partially a symptom maybe of them cooling, but I think it's more a symptom of they have so many guys. I mean, it's the problem that we run into picking, especially in the wide receiver room. You just don't know who's going to get the ball. Running back room, a little bit less so. They have their standout guy, and I think Luke Hartford's really talented, and he seems to be able to catch out of the backfield as well. So I think that's a good pick, Brendan. And I think spot on with that game. I think that this is a get right game for them. Now they've had a tough 3 opponents down the stretch here, but it has not been pretty. We talked a little bit about it on Sunday. The Walpole loss wasn't particularly close. I know Taunton's at 9 seed at D1, but in my mind, for where they were at and how they were playing, that's kind of a bad loss. And then, Natick isn't a bad loss by any means. 1 point to a good Natick team is what it is. But this is a game, if you're going to have success in these playoffs, you have to start yourself off on the right path if you're Milton. And I think this is a big get-right game for them. All right, Johnny.
I'm going to go with a guy who is arguably one of the best players in the state. Unfortunately, has dealt with some injuries. They have a brutal matchup here. They've dropped as low as the 15 seed. I'm going to go Cassius Johnson from the South. I just feel like they're going into Bill Ricca. Bill Ricca is an extremely talented team. You're going to have to rely on your guys, and Cassius Johnson is the guy there. Obviously, the health has been an issue this year for him, and that's kind of why they've struggled to the point that they've at. But they made the playoffs. That's your goal going into the year, so they're there, and they're looking to extend that goal, and I think Cassius Johnson is the key for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough matchup for sure, but he's the definition of matchup proof. When healthy, he's going to get his numbers. I don't think he's come off the board since week 1. We try to mix it up, but I think this is, if he's going to get on the board again, it's going to be here because, as you said, Johnny, this is a really tough one for the Panthers. I actually think, I know Milford's the 1 seed and has a comfy little cushion there atop D3. Bill Ricca is my favorite in this division. I think that they've got the best shot to take home a Super Bowl title. I just love their wins this year. I love the way they've played in some really big games. I think it's a really tough matchup for Plymouth South, but Cassius he's going to get his touches if nothing else, and they're certainly going to need to control the clock, keep it away from Bill Ricca. So I think he goes a long way in doing that. All right, I will go to my second round pick here, and I'm going to, let's see. I'm going to dip into the running back room as well, and I'm going to go with the same kind of idea. I'm going to go with Will St. Pierre out of Hingham. I think they got a tough matchup, not quite as tough as Plymouth South, but Walpole's a really good team. Certainly not going to be favored going on the road to the home of the once proud Rebels, now Timberwolves. They're going to have their hands full, and they're going to have to lean on St. Pierre. So give me the senior captain for Hingham to come through big this week. Round 3, Brendan.
In a similar mindset to with Cassius Johnson, I'm going to go with another familiar name here for the wide receiver class. I'm going to go with a guy who's playing for a favorite this week, actually. So kind of against what I usually do. But this guy's matchup proof. I'm going with Mekhi Bryan out of Hanover. It feels like no matter which team Hanover plays, they find a way to put up 42 points, and he's usually kind of at the center of at least 2 touchdowns every single game. So I think he's a good pick to go with this week.
Yeah, I mean he's heated up. He's gonna be around for a while. I think that they're about to run train on Gloucester is really the long and short of it. But he's really been shining the last few weeks. I think he's a great pick, Brennan. I think he's absolutely going to get his. All right, Johnny.
I'm going to go down to D7 for this one. Another 12th ranked team, but I think they had a good year. I'm going to go to South Shore Votech, and I'm going to go in the wide receiver room, and I'm going to go with Lucas Salvucci. I just think, well, first of all, admittedly a peek behind the curtain. As you know, I have a rule of, the Western Mass teams have to prove it. I thought upon first read, I was like, oh, Clinton falls right under that. Did not realize Clinton was as far east as they are. Admittedly, that was tough for me, but I'm still going to stick. I'm still going to stick with the Vikes in that matchup, and I think Lucas helps him do it.
I think that is a perfectly fair assumption to make. Are they? They're not. They're east of Worcester. Like they're not even.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
They're like. Are they North Shore?
No, they're out kind of by like. They're west of 495 and north of 290. Like they're just southeast of Leominster.
I was going to say Leominster.
Harvard, Sterling. Like, yeah, closer than Leominster.
West of 495 is west of 495 outside of Worcester is the boonies. That's just a South Shore show.
Game at Irish Shirley once, and I was like, "Where the hell am I?"
Go Panthers. That's yeah. I also thought that.
I actually went. I was like, "Oh, how far away are they?" I figured they'd be hours, 30 minutes. For South Shore Votech, obviously longer, but
yeah. One of the great.
I still think they can get it done though.
One of the great mascots. I mean, not a crazy out there mascot per se. Like they're the Gales, but they're just this like crude drawing of. It's like what do you call them? Half horse, half man. But it's like a guy with a football helmet, the old leather helmet, waving a flag that says Gales. It's all green. It's just a great logo, one of my favorites. But I know that logo in detail and still have not taken the time to learn where the hell Clinton is. So there you go. Lucas Salvucci off the board. I'm going to close up my running back room with a guy. Another shout out. I'm never gonna miss an opportunity to shout out. There are a few people. Sully Cody will always get a shout out. I guess I did miss an opportunity earlier to shout him out. And Martin Dunham right there with him. Martin on the ball. I think we talked about this Sunday right away with the historical information on North Quincy's playoff matchup with Barnstable. First time they've met since, what did he say, 2003 maybe? First playoff appearance for North Quincy since 2018. And I think it's a tough matchup for the Raiders, no doubt about it. But Ben Hudak's been great for them this season. He's their leading rusher right now, and I think again they're going to have to pass the ball. I think the flip side of a lot of what we talked about with some of these underdogs so far is that if things don't go right for them, they're not going to be able to control the clock with the ground game. If they're down, they're going to have to throw the ball a little bit more. What I like about Ben is I think he's going to get some early usage as they try to slow the game down, and he's going to get some late usage because he can be a factor in the passing game as well. So Ben Hudak off the board. All right. Brendan, round 4.
Another guy that I think is kind of surprisingly still on the list, mainly due to the fact that we just haven't really gone into depth on BC High games, I think, a lot. I think this will help me in my quest against you because I need a wide receiver, and Conrad Mapka is still available. I think I'm going to select him this week.
If I'm not mistaken, was it this week or last week, or I should say this past week or week 7, but he had a huge game recently. They've got a ton of talent in that receiver room. If they were in a different spot in the bracket, I think they could really surprise some people at Division I. Like they're clearly, when you look at their lot, I mean, they
might have the toughest road out there.
They played a tough Everett team who, just really got hurt by their league schedule, otherwise would be in the playoffs. They played a tough Everett team to a 1-point game, high-scoring affair, and they lost to Severian and St. John's Prep, who are the clear number 1 and number 2 in Division 1. If they fell anywhere outside of having to match up with St. John's Prep in the second round, and that's not to say that Taunton can't hang in this game. I think Taunton could beat them, but I really do think BC High could go on a run in this, if not for the fact that they're slated to meet St. John's Prep in the second week. But I think Conrad's a great pick, great name. I like him on your board, and yeah, you're taking away some of the effectiveness of Carter Carroll for me, so that's a bonus. All right, Johnny.
I'm gonna go wide receiver again. I'm gonna go to a team that's the higher seed, but it's an interesting matchup. I'm gonna go to Scituate. I'm gonna go with Lawson Foley from Scituate. They're the 7 seed, but Wayland at the 10 is a really good team. So I think they're gonna have their hands full. But I think Scituate's gonna be able to take care of them. But I think in order to do so, Lawson's gonna have to give a good game.
This is a matchup that I was zeroed in on. I think it's going to be one of the better matchups of the weekend. One that I was petitioning for, but Brendan, I assume you were going to be at this game.
I will be.
All right, you'll be holding it down for us.
Be tweeting updates like a madman while also shouting PA announcements for the world to hear.
I like it. I'll be looking out for those updates from down the ways in Marshfield.
Hopefully, you'll be able to hear me from just a few miles away.
Yeah, there you go. But I think this is a good matchup, Johnny, and I think the Sailors got to be careful at home here. So I think Lawson needs to have a big game. The whole offense really needs to have a big game. So good pick. All right, I'm going to take the first defense off the board, and let's see. You know what? I'm gonna go tried and true. Give me Duxbury, 16 seed Bedford. Duxbury just never has a problem in the first round of the playoffs, and it's as simple as that. I think that they're going up against a team that is a significant mismatch in terms of talent. I told you on Sunday, I think that they are, in my view, the clearest of any South Shore team. I think Hanover is supremely talented. I think Carver is supremely talented. I think Norwell looks great, but I just don't see anybody in Division 4 that's realistically hanging with Duxbury, and it's certainly not going to be week 1 against Bedford. So give me the Duxbury defense. I'd be shocked if Bedford put up 2 scores in this game. All right, round 5, Brennan.
I'm going to close out my player pool with a running back. I'm going to go with Liam Appleton out of Cohasset. I think this is a great matchup for them when it comes to the running game. They're going to try and get out to a big lead. Liam Appleton is going to play a key role regardless of whether they decide to pass or run the ball. And I think he's going to just rack up a ton of points in this one.
Yeah, I mean, he racks up a ton of points in every game. That offense has got it cooking. It took them a couple of weeks to kind of figure it out with the young quarterback, and now that they have, I think they look really, really tough to beat. And he's a huge reason why. He is just such a player. We haven't seen Cohasset in person yet this year, and I am looking forward to getting the opportunity to do so. And wouldn't be surprised if it was in a game down in Foxborough. So great pick, Brendan. Johnny.
If I need a quarterback, I'm going to go. I actually think he was taken fairly recently, but I think it's going to be a good one this week. I'm going to go with Seamus Whiting from Plymouth North. I just think that's a really intriguing game for me. We talk a lot, especially on Sunday, we talked a lot about how Marshfield's kind of getting screwed long-term with having a match up with Catholic Memorial in the 3-2. But they've got a really tough path. I think that starts with Plymouth North, and I think Seamus and Plymouth North are going to be ready to play. But then they did play well against Marshfield the first time they played. So kind of a trap game first round for Marshfield. It's you never want to see a league rival pop up in your first round matchup, one that's played you well already. So I think Plymouth North will be ready to go, and that'll be a good one.
Plymouth North, outside of St. John's Prep, has scored the most points of any team against Marshfield this year. Seamus Whiting is a big reason why. And I would add, He had kind of a rough game last week in a pretty shocking loss to Silver Lake. I think maybe they just kind of got caught looking ahead to the playoffs. Not sure exactly, but let Silver Lake have their first one of the season. You know that Seamus is going to be looking to dial it back in, and they're going to need him. No doubt about it. They're going to have him in this game against Marshfield. So, good pick, John. All right, it'll go to me, and I'm gonna dip in. We talked about it a little bit earlier. I think it's tough to pick out of this particular positional group, but I'm gonna go to Milton, and I'm gonna go with Ferris Collins, wide receiver. I just think that they're gonna have to, they're gonna have the opportunity, I should say, to spread it around a little bit this week. Rising tide lifts all boats. I think they have gotta get everybody going. I said it's a get right game for them. It absolutely is. Minnetonka is, they're fine. They're a 14 seed for a reason. And I think Milton's got to spread it around, get some people going, and I think I'm hoping that Ferris Collins is one of the benefactors of that attitude. So there you go. All right, final round, Brendan.
I got to go defense here, and I'm going to go with a number 1 seed with the Norwell Clippers. I think it's a great matchup for them going up against Bath Path Vocational out of Charlton, Massachusetts, the fine town out there at the gateway to the west.
Fantastic rest stop out that way.
Yes, and Sturbridge is right across the street if you have the time to go visit. But that said, I don't think this team has a shot in this game against Norwell, which is why I'm going to go with the Clippers here.
I certainly hope they don't, right? Like, I'm hoping for a nice elongated playoff run for Norwell. And I think that starts, as all good things do, with just a little beat down, just go out there, flex your muscles a little bit, take it to Bay Path. And I think it's a good pick, Brennan. That was,
if the path proves me wrong, so be it.
There you go. I was between Duxbury and Norwell, so I think clear pick to come off the board. All right, that'll bring us to your defense, Johnny.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a little on the fly research here. Okay, yeah, this is the play. This is the play. I got in my own head with the whole Clinton's out west thing. I had to double check. I'm gonna go with Carver's defense against Franklin County Tech. It's just one of those games you tip your cap if Franklin County Tech can roll into Carver and put up any semblance of points in my mind. So that's just one I think, Carver looks to roll here. Also, my research, in case you were curious where Franklin County Tech is, it's in Turner Falls. So, Turner Falls, lovely little town, but that's going to be a long bus ride. Legs are going to be sore from that. They're not going to be ready for Carver.
You passed through Turner Falls?
I have. It's actually a nice little spot.
Yeah, they're one of those. Again, I'm gonna give a little. Not as Franklin County Tech, huh?
Softball purposes.
I didn't even mean you. I know Johnny has spent a little time out there in Western Mass, which perhaps makes it all the more shameful that he thought Clinton was out that way. Just whatever. Yeah. Not that you've driven through every part of Western Mass, but Turner Falls. I've gone through there once. It's not going to be a good day in Turner Falls though. Come Friday night, it's just unfortunately, or I guess for the whole of Franklin County is going to be feeling the hurt at the hands of the Crusaders. So tough day for the Boonies. All right, that'll bring it to me to close out the draft. I need a wide receiver. I don't typically like to do this. So you'll have to forgive me, but I am going to pick in a matchup that we are covering. I'm just gonna try to sleep tonight and not be too scrupulous about it. Give me Logan Z Motel. If Seamus Whiting is going to be on in this game, then Logan Zemotel is going to be a big reason why. I think he's great at the wide receiver position. He's going to have presumably a really tough day with Gio Joseph in cover. We saw Gio return an interception for a touchdown this past week against Whitman Hansen. He's one of the really talented cornerbacks on the South Shore, but that's kind of the matchup that I'm really looking forward to watching on Friday night. And I don't know that Logan's going to get the better of it all night. I don't know that Gio's going to get the better of it all night, but I know once again that if we think Plymouth North's going to be able to do something, they're going to have to move the ball through the air on offense. So give me Logan Zemotel. And that wraps the draft. Week 9, playoff week 1. Let's go through them. Brendan, quarterback Dylan Keenan out of Taunton, running back Luke Hartford out of Milton, running back Liam Appleton out of Cohasset. Your wide receivers are Mackay Bryan out of Hanover and Conrad Babka out of BC High with Norwell on defense. Johnny, your quarterback is Seamus Whiting out of Plymouth North. Your running backs Anthony Smith out of Weymouth, Cassius Johnson out of Plymouth South, and your wide receivers Lucas Salvucci out of South Shore Voke and Lawson Foley out of Scituate with Carver on defense. I've got Carter Carroll at my quarterback position. Will St. Pierre and Ben Hudak, my running backs out of Hingham and North Quincy. Duxbury on defense, Ferris Collins out of Milton, and Logan Zemotel out of Plymouth North are my wide receivers. And that does it for the playoff week 1. So as I alluded to there, we will see you on Friday night live from Marshfield High, from James G. Anderson Field. Rams and the Eagles going at it. Our lone direct South Shore on South Shore matchup, the BC High Taunton one, kind of a, more of a Metro South and kind of South Shore matchup. But we have 2 teams we're paying attention to in that game, but more centrally, 2 of our bigger towns, Marshfield and Plymouth North. So that's where we'll be emanating from Friday night, 7:00 start, 6:45 pregame show on 95.9 WATD. Really excited for that one because I think we talked about it here. Johnny, you mentioned it again. I think that it's going to be a closer game than people expect. I think it's going to be an awful fun one. So looking forward to that. But we'll keep on churning out these drafts. We've got a few more weeks to go. It's crazy, but we hit the home stretch now, and the season is coming to a close quickly. But a lot of good football left, and a lot of fun to be had. So go ahead and like and subscribe to WATD Sports right here on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at SE on WATD. And for Brendan, for Johnny, I'm Quinn, and we will see you next time on the WATD Fantasy Draft.